Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Brandon Wong, and welcome to today's Smart Syndicator Mastermind call. Today, I have a special guest with me, Ruben Ortiz. He's the founder of Sayin Renovations and Construction. Over the years, he's done over $100 million in Capex across 10,000 units, over 10,000 units in over a dozen states. We're going to be covering some of the lessons learned along the way, and how to avoid some hidden problems during the due diligence process. So, with that, welcome, Ruben.
Yeah, thank you, Brandon. Appreciate you having me on, man. Very excited. And yeah, like Brandon said, I'm the CEO and founder of Sayin Renovations and Construction. We turned 11 years this year. Started the company in 2014 with always the focus in multifamily. Just a little quick background and on me. Outside of renovations, I'm got a beautiful wife, two beautiful daughters, 7-year-old, 2-year-old that keep me busy outside of work. So anyway, super excited to be on and looking forward to this masterclass.
Yeah, man. Tell us a little bit about one of your more recent projects and maybe one of the issues that you came across and how you overcame.
Sure, absolutely. Look, in renovations, as we all know, in multifamily, things move very quickly. So, obviously for us over the years and in recent projects, it happens all the time. A lot of moving parts. Our scopes have to be very clearly defined. A lot of times, there's a little bit of room for interpretation from both sides, both the client, us. So it's always very important to, one, nail down the scope of work and during a pre-construction meeting. If you're new to the industry, if you're new to syndication, if you're having your team handle the capex portion of your business plan, very important that pre-cons are had prior to starting the project. Two, ask your GC partner anything and everything about your project and about whatever scope you're about to execute. It's very important to clear up the workflow, the capex scope of work. And look, a lot of times sometimes, hopefully not, sometimes that means a mistake of several $1,000s, which sometimes there's no room for. Sometimes it's not a big deal. You work through it and you move on. But sometimes just a simple issue that could have been fixed during a pre-construction meeting through a simple question can save you thousands and thousands of dollars.
So it's important when you're designing your CapEx budget to have that pre-construction meeting where you meet at the property and then you go over what their vision is for the project. And
Correct.
then you sort of build it up behind like on a blueprint, in sort of a blueprint fashion. You're going to build up like this is the scope of work that needs to happen. And
Absolutely.
in some cases that scope changes over time,
In,
is
in,
what you're
in,
getting at. Yeah.
in some cases, the scope, not often, but the scope will change. And most of the time, we're able to address those via a change orders, if there's multiple changes, but most of the time, yeah, they're addressed that way. Now, there's times when we're going to run into unforeseen changes, unforeseen damages, as we've all experienced it. It's something that we just can't control, and that's also why it's very important. And currently, we're doing a project where we've ran into several of those. Now, we were based on the nature of the project and the age of the property. We knew that some of these things were going to come up, but you never know to what extent. So it's really important, one, to have contingencies in your CapEx scope of work, in your CapEx budget to cover for those. Sometimes it's 10%, 15%, 20%, depending on the pre-existing condition of the property. But you want to make sure that you're allocating enough to those, hidden damages, the unforeseen items that neither the GC partner or the owner truly can account for, right?
So if your property is old and busted, you need to put budget the higher
Yeah, you need to
contingency.
have contingency. Sure.
So that's closer to
And
the 20%.
yeah, sometimes for sure. Yeah,
And then some examples of that would be like, you pull up the flooring and so you see the subfloor is rotted or there's rot and the subfloor that
correct.
needs to be replaced. And you don't know about that until you get into the project, or busting a
Absolutely.
wall open and you find mold, or pulling
Yes.
roof tiles up and you see the bottom of the roof, the subroof needs to be replaced.
So we
That
see it
sort of thing.
often on some of the C class properties
Mhm.
that are on pier and beam, not on an actual concrete foundation, right? And not sure if some of the guests that are on, have experienced this, but on pier and beam, a lot of times, your floor may be, the plywood may feel a little soft, and you're budgeting for, 5 sheets of plywood. You pull up the plywood, but the joists that are underneath that plywood are completely rotted. So, that's something that, while again, important to, if you have your trusted GC partner, um, someone that can walk you through that and say, hey, I know you budgeted for, 5 sheets of decking, but did you budget for your joist, the framing? And that's, I mean, that's also why it's important to have a trusted GC partner on your DDs, looking through these items so they can walk you through it correctly and help you budget for those items.
And I think a good exercise too during due diligence is to ask the current owner, the seller, for copies of invoices for any CapEx projects that they've worked on since, during their ownership. I don't know if you'll get all of that, but to give you an example, on one of our properties, we had two walls fall down, the brick facade fall off, like separate and fall off of the building. And had we done closer due diligence and said, send us all the invoices of work that you've done, we would have seen that they already had a wall fall down on one of their properties, and all of them are on one particular side of the structure of the building, of across the buildings. And we
Right.
think that it had to do with thermal expansion of the soil, when it rains, and then their the irrigation system was not functioning at the time, so it wasn't getting the proper moisture in the soil.
Gotcha.
So that we could have caught that earlier, and each one of those walls falling down was like $20,000 to $30,000 to fix. And
Mhm.
we had not, but we had a good sized contingency, but we gobbled up a good portion of that pretty quickly with just these
Right.
walls.
Yep. No, I mean, and you make a good point, Brandon. Asking for invoices, right? A lot of times, if transferable warranties, if the work was just recently done, most of the time they'll do 1-year warranties. So it's super important to ask for those during DD if you've got them. And yeah, whether you get them all, great. If you may not, but you should be able to get some. That could also save you, again,
Hmm.
in your case, thousands of dollars. But
Hmm.
yeah, it's one thing we make a habit out of doing RDDs is obviously not only being on site to inspect your future asset, but we're also talking with the maintenance guys, we're talking with the managers, we're asking them what their pain points are on property, the number of work orders that they have, what their main work orders, uh, what main work order issues they're seeing come across their desks, and because we truly are trying to understand what's going on, and keep our clients from running into those same issues moving forward.
And another note on due diligence, there's a company, Omni, that a lot of us were hiring to do, on a fee basis to come into our properties during due diligence, put together a report, put together a list of like these repairs need to happen like yesterday, these need to happen in the next 6 months, and these need to happen, the next 5 years, that sort of thing. Is
Yep,
that a service that there's now a vacuum in that market because they've exited, to my
right.
knowledge? Could anybody on here correct me if I'm wrong? But is that a service that you guys offer, like to come in and look at all the major systems
It
to
is.
help us put a budget together?
It is. It's part of our due diligence, Brandon. We come in, we check out all your major systems, right? If
Hmm.
it's a C property, there's a lot more to look at. That maybe some groups may be new to the C product, and they're not really going to know what to look for, what to expect. So yes, we're looking at all your major components: roofing, boilers, chillers, electrical panels, crawl spaces, foundation. Not a lot of these C properties have fire suppression systems. That is something that, as if you're used to playing in the C asset class and you're moving up to the B, the A asset class, a lot of times the fire suppression system for some reason gets overlooked, and it is one of the most costly oversights you can make when
Hmm.
you're looking at these new properties. So yes, and we also offer, the goal is asset preservation, right? If you're going to hold it for 5 years, we're going to give you a list of, hey, these are the immediate needs. These are your immediate needs, immediate repairs. This is, B, where you can wait a year or two, and these can wait, as they come up, or through a
Hmm.
maintenance plan that you can
Right.
put together with your property management company. Um, but yes, always the immediate needs are always going to be preserving the envelope of the property to prevent you from having major issues, water intrusion, water leaks. Water can cause a lot of damage. Repainting your buildings to properly um, to insulate them, basically keep water out, all that stuff. Rotted wood. No one likes to really do it, but a lot of times these properties unfortunately need new roofs. They've seen better days. If you need new roofs, if you need new electrical panels, on the C class, I think a lot of them now have been kind of phased out, but we were seeing a lot of Federal Pacific uh, electrical panels. And by lenders and insurance or requiring to replace those. I think in DFW, a lot of them have been phased out, but we still run into properties that currently still have them every once in a while. So electrical systems, your boiler system, making sure that it was kept, that it was inspected yearly, maintained, along with the chillers.
Now, when you inspect the plumbing systems, do you look into the lateral lines and do you use cameras when
We
you
do.
check like the sewer lines?
We do. So, we have to. We're scoping plumbing lines. We're scoping main lines. We're making sure that we're checking for cracks, making sure that we're trying to, one, identify if you've got cast iron or PVC, what type of plumbing material you have on your property, cracks, any dips that may any failures, meaning the pipe has sunk and now holding water and if you got cast iron over the years, that's just going to corrode it, and then you have that underlining crack that you don't see until you pull up the
Mhm.
slab or you're digging, you're tunneling underneath the building. But yes, very important, right? We're scoping, running the camera on all your main lines.
And that's a key point. All like some companies will cut corners and just spot check a
Right.
couple of them just to check the condition in general. But
Absolutely.
it's
You
super
never
important to
know.
check all of
Right. You never know. The one you don't inspect may cause our client,
them.
$30,000 in a
Yeah,
main repair. So
right.
Ruben, I know the number, but do you want to share your sort of range of fee associated with doing the front end due diligence, unit by unit walk and exterior?
yeah,
Um, yeah,
absolutely. It's going to vary by property size, but we'll go from about $50 per unit to 125, 145, depending on the unit count. The higher the unit count, obviously, the lower the cost will be from a unit price per unit perspective. Um, But yeah, as little as $50 per unit to about 125, 145.
Thank you.
And yeah, that's great to factor into your due diligence costs.
Yep.
And then armed with this report, so I'd imagine people get some sort of report with like a checklist, an Excel spreadsheet with all the units that you walked and checked for, was it upgraded? Was it not upgraded? Does it have washer dryer connections? Does it not? Did they get
Correct.
that at the end?
So that's a good question. So Brandon, a lot of times we will, and obviously this will impact the cost. A lot of times what we're hired out to do is do all the exterior due diligence, and including on the interior, we'll do the electrical panels. We'll check, the electrical panels, Federal Pacific. If your property is copper versus aluminum, hopefully it's copper, and the property management company will walk every interior unit and provide our clients with their full interior assessment, and we'll provide the exterior assessment.
Gotcha.
But yes, we do both, right? We'll come in and inspect every unit if need be for our clients, and provide a full report with photos of the condition of the interiors, the type of floor plan, the recommended scope for the interiors, as well as accompanied with all the exterior information.
Okay. So the property manager essentially assists you with that process. Because
Thank you.
what I've seen in the past is people have their property management company do the entire pre-purchase due diligence, and I think that's a mistake to rely solely on property management company because there are potential conflicts of interest. I like having a third party looking at these things, because a property manager just, they want your business. Obviously, you want the business as well, but it's harder to get two people to collude than it is to get one person to collude against you as the owner or the purchaser of the property. So I like having a third party come in and check things out. But yeah, just me. Um, so the due diligence report, now the pricing range you were talking about earlier, does that include or exclude the interior of the property?
So
Like,
that'll typically include the interior of the property as well.
okay.
Yep.
Okay. Cool. Good to know. Um, and then with regard to pricing of materials and labor and that sort of thing, I know with your time in the industry and the experience that you have, I would imagine you've negotiated a little bit better prices for materials, buying
Yes.
it in economies of scale and that sort of thing. Do you share kind of a line by line of with your clients so that they can effectively budget their capex?
Not unless our clients are, and to your point, Brandon, yes,
Hmm.
I think, it goes without saying. I think, this is important for everyone. Make sure that if you found your GC partner, right? Um, a lot of us can obviously economy of scale, right? We can leverage our relationship with all our vendors to, hey, if it's a project where things are tight and we need to go find the absolute best price, right? We're able to do that, to help you, obviously execute your business plan successfully, right? And or be a part of it. But yes, I mean, leveraging I think it's one of the pros of working with a seasoned GC that's been through some of these cycles, right? And able to leverage those relationships with vendors. And I'm sorry, your second question was.
Helping. So during the budgeting, but like part of our underwriting process, we like to put in before we make an offer on the property, we want to know about how much we're spending on CapEx upgrades for maintenance
Line
and that sort of
items.
thing.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you help them
So
kind of facilitate that? Go ahead.
yes, absolutely. So now there's a lot of times where clients will just say, "Hey, can you give us some ballpark numbers, or just an idea of what this will cost?" Always happy to do that. Nick, who's on the call, he's a good friend. I've known Nick for a while, but he's also allowed us to do work on his properties. And he's got the relationship we have now is, "Hey, Ruben, I'm looking at this property. Can you give us an idea? Can you check this out? Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, and I think that allows him and his team to, at least for the underwriting, get close or get a good idea of what that's going to look like. And then once things get past that first phase, you know, LOI accepted, all that stuff, we can provide, you know, line item numbers. Hey, it's
Hmm.
going to be this much for your appliances, this much for your fixtures, this much to repaint your unit, this much to repaint your property, carpentry, all that stuff, asphalt, restriping. So
Okay. So you dial it in. Basically, here's a
yes,
ballpark,
absolutely.
and then LOI accepted. Now we're dialing in, getting it better. Um,
Yes. Yep.
and the syndicator can turn around to their investors and say, hey, like I have an actual GC looking at this,
Mhm.
and these numbers are sound, because he's been doing this a long time. And
Right.
out of curiosity, do you guys warehouse any materials? Do you keep a stock, or
We
is it made to order? Go ahead.
No, so we keep a small stock in our warehouse, just to have on hand. But for the most part, we've found some interior vendor partners who, I mean, that's all they do, and they provide, you know, interior fixtures, kit them, send them out to us into the units, and we're ready to go.
Um, what is your opinion on those companies that they basically sell prepackaged, like here's a unit upgrade kit and here's all the materials and stuff that you need to make it happen, flooring, fixtures, all that stuff. Are you familiar with what I'm talking about? And are you, um,
Yep, and
what's your
and
opinion?
and look, I think you have to vet them, right? Just like anything. And if you have the opportunity to go to their warehouse and actually see the quality of the material, because yes, a lot of them are, look, a lot of them are very economical, right?
Mhm.
That doesn't necessarily mean that these items are going to last. You may install a faucet and
Mm,
2 months later, you're having to buy a new one, right? And you have
gotcha.
to spend, I mean, you know, you end up spending more just trying to upkeep that, you know, I
Right.
guess cheap product. So you have to vet them. And so nothing against them. We've found a couple that we've enjoyed working with. The quality's there, the price point is very fair. So yes, absolutely. If you find a good one, uh, I mean, I'm not opposed
Hmm.
to using their service because it is great. If they're good at what they're doing, it saves a lot of time. It saves a lot of time on finding fixtures, you going out, picking out every single little thing. They sell them prepackaged, they kit them, including the appliances, send them to you, deliver them into the unit for your, you know, either your maintenance or your GC to start uh, getting to work.
Out of curiosity, do you have like how big is the team that's backing you, and like do you have estimators that can come out on your behalf, or are you kind of doing everything?
No, so we have a team of 12. We have a team of 12 currently, you know, that's project managers, superintendents. Um, and yes, so we can all, a few of us can estimate. I really enjoy what I do, Brandon. You know, I grew up actually doing the labor, applying the paint, working on multifamily properties. Um, and it's funny that you mentioned that. Someone was asking me, hey, why do you still go out and, you know, look at these properties, or why are you going out on some DDs? Because I really enjoy it, and I really want to, you know, it's time for me to, I get to spend time with our client. I get to look at properties. So yeah, I've got a great team. I've got a great group of guys. Um, you know, they're project managers, superintendents. We've got a great business development team member, Ryan Kramer. But yeah, I mean, look, a lot of my day to day now is, you know, here at the office, but any opportunity that I get to go look at a property, I'm there, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. Whereabouts are you situated?
We are in Addison.
Okay.
We are, so if you're familiar with the area, we're right across the street from Galleria up Spring Valley and the tollway.
Cool. You are multi-state, so you do stuff outside of DFW as well.
Correct.
Um, so would you be willing to offer that type of due diligence service to people outside of Texas? I, that's not sure.
It's, it's, we don't, that's a good question. We haven't really, we've only been asked to do DDs outside of Texas a handful of times. Most of the times have been for existing clients who have worked with us, over the years. So we will go out and do those DDs for them. But it's, it's not often that it happens. I think it just, it doesn't really end up making a lot of sense uh, cost wise at that point. But yes, we also do them. Um, Kylan, if you get a property in Nashville, Tennessee, and you need us to go do a DD, we can go do it.
Very cool. Um, I know from a syndicator standpoint, from the ownership standpoint, one of their objective is to maximize investor returns. And my understanding is, working with you, it's not going to be the cheapest option for them. What is some of the value that you add? Uh, so like what would entice them to hire you versus hiring their own subs, managing their own projects?
Sure. Again, just the experience over the years that we have collectively, and obviously I grew up, I cut my teeth doing the work. I know what it takes. We know what it takes to get the projects done right, and get them done in a timely manner. Outside of that, it's the relationships, how we can leverage our tenure in the space with our vendors. Saving money on fixtures, materials, all that stuff, having dedicated superintendents, project managers on your team. It takes, not saying that no one can do this, but there's going back to, earlier in the conversation, there's a lot of moving parts, even to just what may look like a simple repaint, miscellaneous carpentry, right? There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of coordination that needs to happen. Um, and if you don't have someone that's doing that on your team, it can take up a lot of your time, and a lot of your time can be, I think better spent, on the operation side of things, for your property, all that stuff. Um, and let's see, I think, one thing that I think people always hear me say is our communication. I mean, I'm, we're big on communication, and we're going to be honest with you, and we're going to, we're going to be honest with you, and we're going to hold ourselves accountable. Mistakes happen. It's, we're not perfect. Mistakes happen, and we own up to them. If we make a mistake, we're not going to change order you for our mistake. I've never been a fan of that. We've never done that. We're going to own up to it, and make it right. So yeah, I think, one, the experience that we have, the knowledge that we have on knowing what it takes to get these projects done, working with you, the flexibility that we have, when it comes to, sometimes things get a little tight, and we're not able to, a lot of times we're, net 30, sometimes it turns into a net 60, net 90. Cool, no worries. We can handle that. And still continue
Yeah.
moving things along.
So you guys are financially sound, essentially.
Correct.
I've worked with contractors in the past, unfortunately, during my learning phase. I mean, you never really exit the learning phase, but
Oh man.
they don't have the fund. They need money up for like a lot of money up front, and then they ask for more because they don't have the funds to finish the project, So they don't have the liquidity. You want to work with a company that has liquidity and has a reputation, a history in the market. And I would imagine you carry some type of like general liability insurance.
Absolutely.
Do
Yep.
you?
We carry all the insurances necessary to be on your properties. General liability, which we all know insurance right now, even for us, it's crazy.
Mhm.
So insurance, liability, workman's comp, and again, financially sound.
And you pull permits when they're needed from the city and
What,
that sort of thing. Okay.
yes, when they're needed,
Okay.
absolutely. There's times when, permits aren't necessarily needed or required, emergency repairs, but we still do and make sure the work is done to meet those codes or
Right.
requirements.
I know in some jurisdictions, if you replace like more than 2 to 3 feet of drywall, they want a permit pulled. I'm like,
Oh,
that's retard. That's retarded. Like, why
yeah,
would I do that?
it's crazy. You replace a faucet and they're wanting, the city wants a permit for it. Well, no one, it just doesn't make sense.
Right.
Just on the point of price,
Um,
Brendan, we have an LOI accepted right now, so we're starting to think through this. But when you look at Cyan's overall package, I think you got to think about what that includes. Because for us, we started doing the math and realizing, well, they come with all the capex management, so you don't have to have that overhead, which you may or may not want to do for your business. But that's like 10% a lot of times with the asset managers now don't have to include into the whole compensation package for them, and they can pass that through, and it's a lot cheaper. Then you got
hmm.
like you said, all the quality concerns and the retrades that you get when you try to pinch here and there when you get the lowest price bids. And I think those two alone, we were looking at it, comparing it apples to apples, because I know that some of the people on this call and some of my other buds have used Cyan before, and we were like, oh wait, this is actually price competitive if you take the whole package. But again, not everybody wants to wipe their
Yeah.
capex management fee, but if that's what you're willing to do, then you're getting quite the bargain as far as markup for what we've seen on pricing.
Yeah, and going back to what Ruben said earlier about making things right, if there is a hiccup, Dustin Miles has worked with them for many years, and they've confirmed that his team made things right if there was a hiccup. So that's what you're saying, Gabe, with regards to like looking at the big picture and the overall budget. You got to ask yourself the question is what business are you in? Are you in the capex management business or asset management? Because they're actually two different things, and it's a lot of people don't know that. And capex management can be its own job, its own full-time job,
Yes.
depending on the workload. So you have to consider that as a business owner. What do I actually want to do on a monthly or day-to-day basis? Because it is almost going to be a day-to-day thing for you managing contractors. And if you're willing to put that work in, then you might save some money there. But if you don't know what you're doing, you might also lose money. It'll be a net negative for you. So I think that's a great point to kind of differentiate those two.
Yep, and that
Um,
is, Gabe, absolutely. And, just, a couple clients come to mind. There's clients, we have a mix of clients, right? Some clients say, hey, obviously, uh, we don't want to get involved we don't want to start our own internal construction company. We don't want to deal with any of that. We just want to partner up with a GC that does things right, cares, is going to do what he's telling me he's going to do and execute it. And we move on. We want to focus on finding deals, finding good deals for our investors and making sure that our time is spent doing that and not having to manage you. Awesome. Let's go.
yeah.
We have clients who over the years were able to build hire on a construction manager, asset manager, whatever it is. And now they're working with us to put the scopes together. They're handling all that stuff. And we're moving forward with projects. So we work with the mix of clients, and to your point, it's just some clients decide to get involved in the CapEx management, some don't, but we can make it work either way.
Nick had a question. And Nick, you're muted.
We've worked with Ruben on a couple of bigger projects and a couple of smaller ones, and I can just say that they've been great. We get every Friday an update of like this is what progress has been made during the week with some pictures, maybe it's 2 to 4 pages of information. So it's nice to kind of see where if we can't get out there and look at it because our stuff's in Abilene, his
Mhm.
guys are sending us updates on Fridays of what they've completed during the week. Where they've gone from the prior Friday, but it's really nice. And any big problem, I mean, we're looking at he's completely done replaced dry rotted wood and painted 228 unit property and 288 unit property. So there's some little, find some pieces of wood that were missed or something. Anything that we found, they've been out very quick to come out and make it right.
Yep. And Nick, thanks to that point, I think, going back to your previous question, Brennan, on, how we add value, we also understand that you guys have, and our clients have investors, right? And we understand that the way we present things to you guys can go a long way with investors and putting everyone in the best light possible. So we're very aware that it's not just you. You have investors that you need to talk to, that you need to address and answer certain questions, and we want to make sure that we provide you with the information, at least from our standpoint, because we're using Capex, spending money on your asset. We want to make sure that you have the right information to present to them if you choose to, so everyone is in the know and everyone feels good about what is being done to their asset.
Very cool. Yeah, whenever I teach folks how when they're building their pitch decks to raise capital, is to always have a slide about their team and the people, and then like 3 bullet points about their experience. Whether it's an actual general partner or a subcontractor or a contractor that they're working with. Investors want to know that people are in the right roles, that have the right skill sets, and I think it's immensely powerful when you're raising money to be able to leverage your experience and background and being in it for more than 10 years, and the sheer volume of work that you've done. I would highly encourage everybody when they're building their pitch deck to include something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've been reached out to before and just saying, hey, do you mind if we throw your photo on the pitch deck with a little bit of information as you being part of the team? Cool. Yeah, that'll work.
Cool.
Can
Just
we
know
dork
if it's
out?
yeah, go ahead.
My bad. I was just saying, can we dork out a little bit and talk about specific rules of thumb or according to what you're seeing right now? Because I know a lot of us are in hunt mode, but as soon as we strike, we're going to want to be at least somewhat dialed in on the Capex side of things. So maybe you could walk us through, how you sort of from a distance can take a look at a property and understand whether you've got a low, medium, or high issue with some of the major systems, and then we could talk some specific rules of thumb. I don't know if that's helpful for you, Nick, and others on the call, but it might be helpful to kind of hear, some tricks of the trade so that we go in a little more educated on the front end when we're buying.
And Ruben, just to give you some context, a lot of us are trained by the same mentor, and
Gotcha.
we remember, and many of us remember the good old days of like budgeting 3,500 to $5,000 a unit for
Man.
Capex, and that was a long time ago. So what are we looking at these days? Like with this, and let's say like a C-class property, 100 units, upgrading from original to upgraded, like
Right.
granite countertops,
Yeah,
the works.
I'll give you a
Yeah.
range. So we're 1,000 square foot apartment, right? You're probably looking about, if you're going to do a full upgrade, and the variances here are going to be whether you're going to do quartz countertop versus laminate or resurface, replace cabinet fronts, all that stuff. So you're probably looking at on the low end, which you'll probably still find somewhere out there, is 10K for the full upgrade. And we're doing upgrades right now up to about 16, 17K. So that's what I've seen. I also get to see, pricing from other folks in the industry. And that's the range that we're seeing on the low end for a full upgrade, C-class, not a lot of, we'll say a unit that is in good condition, not a lot of drywall work, baseboard work, not a lot of extras, probably on the low end about 10K. And then as you get up to bigger floor plans, nicer properties, nicer finishes, you're looking about, 15, 17K.
Are you seeing about 3K for that same apartment for the flooring and 2K for appliances?
Yes, Gabe. So flooring varies, and we're getting calls from our flooring vendors. Hey, flooring's going down a little bit next month. Hey, flooring's going back up next month, just based on what, the external stuff, what was going on externally with tariffs and all that stuff. But for the most part, flooring about 3K. Sometimes I'll tell you this: flooring between $2,700 and like $3,200. Appliances, yes, 2,000 to about 2,800 with installed, delivered into the unit.
And that's for specifics. That's a refrigerator, dishwasher.
Refrigerator, dishwasher, microwave, and range stove.
The range. Okay. And then how much to add washer and dryer to that?
So that's a good question. If the units do not have washer and dryer, there's a couple things that you need to consider. How far is the panel from where I need to install the washer and dryer? And two, where am I tying in my water connections? If the closet that you're putting your washer and dryer backs up to a restroom, cool, easy. If the panel's 10 feet away from where we need to run the electrical to, not a big deal. You're looking at probably about $3,600 on the low end to add the washer dryer connections to, sometimes they're far away. The locations that we need to get water from, electrical from, are pretty far from where they need to go. So you're looking about, $4,800, $5,000. And that includes drywall repairs, tape bed texture, after all the insulation is completed, and painting the repairs.
Including the appliances.
Does not include the washer and dryer though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do you guys do remediation of aluminum connections on all the switches and outlets?
We do, Gabe, and if you are running into that, so we do, we call it pigtail alumicons, aluminum to copper conversion. We do. And I don't know if any of you have gone through some of those conversions. They are not the cheapest.
I would imagine, because they seem like they need, in my experience, they need the most direct oversight, because you've got to sit over the shoulder a lot of times and make sure folks don't skip anything. Otherwise you get failed when your lender comes in. So
yep. You'll get failed. They'll send a third-party inspector, and they'll have you remove the outlet cover and check for those purple wire nuts. Sometimes they'll make you unscrew it and make sure that it's got the little gel. They come with a little, I'm skipping on the name right now, but it's essentially a little gel that you have to coat the wire with, and then put the aluminum, the purple wire nut on. So yeah, you don't want to fail those. And look, just to give you an idea, let's say a unit has 25 outlets, and every single one of them is going to need this done. You're looking at probably about, $25 to $40 per outlet. So that could easily be, $1,200 to $1,500 per unit right there.
Sounds in line with market. Thanks a lot, Ruben.
What was that, Gabe?
I said it sounds in line with market. Thank you. That makes total sense. Yeah, that's what 1,200 seems to be the market price. We've obviously gone through the pains of going with lower priced products than that, and you have to do a lot of your own project management if you're going to do that.
Yes. If you're going through something like that, or running into a property like that, we know obviously there's warranty. The pros of working with whether it's us or another GC, you're going to get a warranty on it. And at least with us, you'll get documented photos of the entire process. So,
all right, I'm going to steal in. I'm sorry. It's hot topic
good,
right now. We're buying. How can you give us some rules of thumb for measuring up and approximating the costs for an exterior paint project? And like, what kind of numbers is it by linear foot for your standard garden 2-story?
So standard garden 2-story, Gabe. So we normally we call it by unit, right? Hey, it's going to be 600. It's going to be $800 per unit to paint your exterior. Now this is what I'm looking at. If it's a standard garden style 2-story building, brick, well, let's call it, 60% brick, and the rest is siding, and you've got your trim boards, all that stuff, wood that needs to be painted, a paintable surface. What we're looking at is, what's the percentage between brick and actual paintable surface? And if it's very not too intricate, right? 3 to 4 colors. A paint for the siding, paint for the trim, paint for the rails, stairs, and paint for the doors. Pretty straightforward paint project. Garden style, you're probably looking about $800 to $900 per unit.
Perfect. Ruben. Super helpful.
Yep. And now, if you're getting into the newer stuff, 3 stories, newer builds that have 4 to 5 colors and a lot more detail work as far as trimming and all that stuff. And now you're getting into the $900 to $1,000 per unit. And if mid-rise, 4 stories, 5 stories, then you're looking at like $1,200 to $1,500 per unit. There's, lifts, boom lifts that we need to rent, all that stuff. But for 2-story standard market garden style, 800 to $900 per unit.
Quick question, Ruben, on trenchless sewer line repair. Have you ever done one of those where they basically inject like a resin mold that hardens onto the sewer line? Have you ever done one of those projects?
No, Brandon. I know exactly what it is. We've not had the opportunity to work or do one of those projects. But all I can speak to is that I've had clients who have done it in the past, and it worked great for them. They didn't do it, on every single building, but it was a one case situation. But it worked out great for them.
And I would imagine it's a pretty significant cost savings not having to dig that sucker up and put a new one in.
Correct. You do, and I don't. I'd be lying to you if I told you I knew what that savings is, but I do know that there is cost savings. Yeah, no trenching, no removal.
Well, wait a second. I don't know about that. Savings might be it might leave the wrong impression, because sock lining a project is very expensive still due to the technology involved, the companies. There's only a couple that do it, and they're very pricey. So double check that, because I think that's why nobody's done it. I think nobody's done it because your clients that did it probably had a great experience, but I don't know that they paid the same price as if we just literally dug underneath every building and replaced it with PVC. I think they're almost neck and neck with, like, I think trenching every line and PVCing on a slab is probably the most expensive option, but sock lining is like right behind it, which is why you'll find most of us just like piecemealing it as stuff pops up on these. But I don't know. I could be wrong. Maybe some more vendors do it. There's one guy in DFW that does it, and his pricing was crazy. And there's some people outside of DFW, like near Midlothian, that'll drive into town and do it. But be prepared for a big ass number, like an offensively big number for how easy it seems.
Do you by any chance remember what that per lineal foot cost was?
I need to double check my notes, but I want to use the phrase $80 to $100 per LF. And it was something. I have to double check, dude. I should make sure that I'm getting that right. But we went through the math on it, and I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, I probably won't call you back."
So per chat GPT, using the bursting method, it's $60 to $250 per linear foot. Or, I'm sorry, 60 to 200, and then piping line is 80 to 250 per foot.
Yeah,
that's crazy. I mean, it's a lot more than you're going to get if you ask. Actually, so I take that back. It is the more expensive option. You imagine there's some project management, there's some other overhead, right? Like that's maybe not all in. That's you're probably looking at more than if you literally hired a guy who dug full time, 2 guys to dig full time, and then had your plumber come in by the hour and just slap in the primary and secondary lines. I think that it's going to be a lot less productive than one might think. We'll see. That's a really good one to keep an eye on, though.
Yeah,
it depends, right, on access, the length of the run. If it's a really long run, it might be cheaper. You know, I guess just case by case, just
Yep.
something to ask and investigate. Any other questions anyone has? I know Gabe's full of them because he's knee deep right now in a deal. Nothing, Gabe?
Oh, per square. What are you guys looking at on roofing? Standard pitch,
Per square.
two-story. Yeah.
Is it steep, pretty steep or no?
No, like a medium steep, not I'm saying even medium to low steepness, less
Okay.
dangerous kind of a project.
Asphalt shingle roof?
Yeah,
Okay.
range.
Give you range. It'll be probably between 230 per square, Gabe,
Uh-huh.
depending on the shingle product,
Uh-huh.
to 275.
Well, with Rubens, you get basically you guys. If you're hearing that, that's very price competitive. I'll be excited to get you guys up on our roof because obviously it comes with all the Capex management quality to it, right? So it's like
Yep.
when that's like the pricing you're going to get from a regular roofer who may try to slide in some subpar equipment, and so it's a very competitive one, Ruben, and that's really good. Cool.
You want me to meet you at the property today?
No, you will. No, you're gonna be there. I've already talked to your people. I've already chatted with them. You're gonna be there. We don't do diligence for a couple weeks, but you'll be there.
Any other questions? I mean, Ruben is a wealth of knowledge here. You have access to him
No,
for
and
a couple more minutes.
guys, I'll share my, Gabe, you have my contact, Nick, so do you, Key, you as well, but I'll share my contact information on here in case anyone has any questions that they'd like to ask after the webinar. Please feel free to reach out to me. I told you guys, I love doing this. It's any opportunity that I get to be on site or answer questions, I'm all for it. So not sure if there's a chat on here where I can leave my information or I can just give it to you guys.
I can blast it out.
Cool.
To them if you just send that to me.
Oh, one more. Have you ever done Encore's HVAC program for your clients?
And no, we have not, Gabe. And I'll tell you what, a lot of times the HVAC companies, it just makes more sense for them to engage with the HVAC company that does the Encore program.
Yeah.
But to your point, we are looking into it. And at that point, it's just, we'll see if it makes sense for us to offer it to our clients or just refer an HVAC company that can do it for them.
And just for context, there's a little bit of paperwork and coordination on payment. So instead of the general contractor getting in the way of the process, working with the AC contractor to go directly to Encore, where Encore is going to pay about $3,000 per unit, and the AC vendor should be at least in like the 2 to 3 range for the rest of it. And then you only have to pay the 2 to 3 range that you're paying for the AC company, and Encore will pay that other roughly 60%.
There is something that we're working on very similar to that, Gabe, with Windows.
Nice.
So,
nice. Really?
Energy efficiency.
Oh, geez. I mean, I've had to just look at the windows and go, that's a shame.
No, there's, we're still in the process of figuring it out, probably a few months away, but there's also some incentives and credits that we can get our clients on top of replacing the windows.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest need from an energy efficiency perspective if you look at DFW. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Speaking of energy efficiency, have you done rollouts of solar projects? Like, have you seen a lot of owners do that?
No, we haven't seen a lot of owners, at least, the clients that I've worked with, no, haven't seen a lot of solar rollouts. There was one property that comes to mind that we worked on that had solar, and they just ended up getting rid of them. So not sure why, but not, at least, not us. We haven't seen it. We haven't done it. So.
Okay. Yeah, I would have thought with the tax incentives, it would have been something that could potentially boost NOI, but apparently, if you're not seeing it, that's not the case.
No, it's we haven't seen it. I think I've only the one property that comes to mind where we did the exterior work. And another property, they added them on the carports. It was an eyesore, but not sure if it ended up working out for them or not.
Cool. Well, we are at the top of the hour. If you guys would like to get in touch with Ruben, his email is in the chat, ruben@sandconstruction.com. And with that, I do appreciate your time, Ruben. You've been a wealth of knowledge, and I appreciate you coming on here.
Absolutely, man. Thank you very much, man. Appreciate you having me on. Thanks everyone for joining, taking the time to hop on. And again, if you've got any questions, my email is in the chat. And if you've got my phone number, just feel free to text me or call me.
Sounds good, Ruben. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
Bye
See
bye
ya.
now.
Bye.